Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episodes 4 through 6 of Kuroko's Basketball. The last 3 episodes were really good. I liked them a lot. They started out on Patreon, and so I couldn't wait. But I wanted to wait until they had aired on Patreon to get a couple comments maybe to talk about before we start. And I'm really glad that I did, because I didn't realize, I usually never watch the previews for anime because I'm always afraid they're gonna like spoil something, and I like to go in blind with them. And with the sports anime and us doing 3 episodes, I'm like, well, I don't want to stick around and watch the ED and the previews for the next episodes, because we're just gonna go to the next one. But I'm kind of sad because Zero Anti-Zero told me, he's like, hey, did you know that there's like end cards for each episode? And I was like, what? No, I missed all the ones in Ace of the Diamond. I missed all the end cards. I know I've been given a link to go back and look at them now. But I do want to like show the end cards for this series as we go, because I didn't realize that. So Zero Anti-Zero was really nice in the Discord and put up the first 3 that came out that I'm going to show you all. So this is the one for episode 1, which is Kuroko and Kagami. I like that one a lot. I'm glad I'm not the only one shipping Hyuga and Riko, because here's episode 2's. I was like, yes, thank you. I love it a lot. We'll talk about Riko and Hyuga here in a minute. And then this was episode 3's, which has Kisei and Kasamatsu. And I love them together too. So we've been talking, the Discord like has exploded for Kuroko, which I'm really, really excited about. So I love that everybody's talking about the series, and it's kind of like a nice throwback, and everybody's going back to talking about their favorite ships and stuff, and black boxing the hell out of everything so that I'm not spoiled. I'm all here for it. It's great. But I do have some comments. So Zero Anti-Zero, speaking of which, I did make a note that when I was looking at the episodes, I saw that there was like episode 22 and then 22.5, and Zero was saying that it may be better to watch episode 22.5 in between episodes 50 and 51. That's all they said. They didn't spoil me or give me any reasons, and I don't want to know any reasons, but I will be curious to know if people would prefer me to wait and put that episode there between 50 and 51, or to go ahead and watch it after 22. I'm assuming that maybe if it's a 0.5 episode, it might be better to watch in between 50 and 51. We'll wait and see. I don't want to be spoiled about what it's about, but if people are like, oh yeah, wait and watch it between 50 and 51, then I'll do that. So that was good to know. But also, Tamiya, Zero's comment kind of talked about this in relation to Tamiya, who was talking about the names having meanings. And I really thought this was cool how Kuroko's name ties back to Kabuki's, who are actors on a stage that are all dressed in black. And they're actors that when props and things move around, they're dressed in black so that on the stage they're not noticeable, but they move the stuff around. And it's a really cool technique people can use in theater to just kind of like imitate. When you can't move stuff, but you need it to move, you can have an actor like dress in all black and like move it for you, and they're just not supposed to be seen on stage. It's a cool effect, but I think that ties perfectly to Kuroko, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I like that his name is a reference to that. It ties in perfectly. Kagami also means fire god. Can see that. And then Taiga is a Buddhist term that means freedom gained from enlightenment. And it's like, oh, Taiga realizing that him and Kuroko could stop the generation of miracles, gaining enlightenment from it. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see about that. Also, Kelsey and Anime Annie were talking about the VAs in this series, because I'm like, I know this series, it's popular enough, it's been around long enough, they probably have some pretty well-named voice actors in it, and it does. Kuroko's voice actor, the chameleon of all chameleon voice actors. Kuroko's voice actor is the same one as Raichi from Ace of the Diamond, Raichi, Akutagawa from Bungo Stray Dogs, Flock from Ace of the Diamond, Tadashi from Skate the Infinity. I'm just like, this voice actor, his voice, he just can play all these different characters, and it's kind of insane. I'm like, also plays Yuri from Spy Family. So I'm like, just Kuroko's voice actor doing all the things. I love his voice actor, Kensho Ono, a lot, and he's like a chameleon. It's kind of cool. But Anime Annie also added that Kagami's voice actor is Jun from Ace of the Diamond, which is really cool. And also Ogasawara from Sasaki to Miyano. As soon as Anime Annie said that, I was like, oh my god, I can hear Ogasawara in Kagami's voice. That's what I'm recognizing. Because I kept thinking in the last 3 episodes, I'm like, I know that voice from somewhere. It's Ogasawara. So I was like, I can recognize it. But also somehow is Watson from Moriarty the Patriot. I was like, Watson's voice actor is Ogasawara and Kagami. Huh. But that's not where it gets crazier. Hosoya. Hosoya is one of my favorite voice actors, and he's voice acting Hyuga. I knew that there was a reason I liked Hyuga, and it's because it's Hosoya. I'm like, good, yay! And he's one of the characters on Siren's team, so he'll be around for a while. I'm like, awesome. But also, what's even crazier is that Riko's voice actress is Yona from Yona the Dawn. So I'm like, even though I'm catching up with Yona the Dawn and not going to be able to read it for a while, we'll still have Yona's voice actress for around. I'm also now shipping Yoda and Reiner together, like crossing over. So I'm like, there's that. It's a fun time. Also, I didn't realize that, well, we'll get to Kagame's in a minute. Kisei's voice actor, surprising no one, is also Amahisa from Ace of the Diamond. Amahisa and Kisei, they kind of seem similar-ish, so that's funny. That's a fun time. And also, Kisei's voice actor is Hiyori from Free and Bokuto from Haikyuu. Bokuto always surprised me because, like, Kisei, Amahisa, and Hiyori, I can see it. I can see, like, the character type similarities, but Bokuto is, like, such a wild card to throw in there. It's kind of like Raichi and Kuroko being the same voice actor. Kasamatsu's voice actor is the same one as Shirakawa. We won't hold it against him. What can you do? Had to earn a paycheck somehow. But then Kagame's voice actor, the one with the cat face, his voice actor also plays Akihiko from Given. He plays Lloyd from Spy Family. And he plays Maki from Daya. Didn't know that Ace of the Diamonds Maki was the same voice actor as Akihiko and Lloyd. I'm sure I've been told that and I'd forgot. So I'm like, how about that? And then finally, Wim was saying in the Discord, they were like, yeah, so, you know, Kizu, who writes Given, could have based Mafiu and Uenoyama, that BL pair, on Kagame and Kuroko because they did some doujinshi on them. And I was like, and at the moment I was like, well, wait a minute. I thought that Kizu based Uenoyama and Mafiu on Kageyama and Hinata from Haikyuu because they had done some doujinshi for Haikyuu. And then suddenly it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute. There's doujinshi from Kizu for Kuroko basketball? What? And so Wim was like, well, Kizu only did Iwa-oi doujinshi. And I'm like, I know, but Kageyama and Hinata just look like Mafiu and Uenoyama, look like them. But if their personalities are based on Kagame and Kuroko, I'm like, that would make a lot of sense because I could see the personalities being based more on them. But I was just like, there is Kuroko doujinshi made by Kizu out there. I have things to look forward to when I'm caught up with this series. So I'm just going to file that away. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm like, oh my God, Kuroko drawn by Kizu. I'm here for it. So, all right. But those are my notes for episodes 1 through 3 and the end credit cards. I'm excited to see what the end credit cards will be for this set of episodes. So, with that being said, I'm really excited to start these 3 episodes and see what all we get. So, we're not going to waste any more time. I'm ready to dive in. I hope you all are too. But we are going to start episodes 4 through 6 of Kuroko's Basketball. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh my gosh. I loved these episodes. These were even better than the first 3, especially episodes 4 and 5. Episode 6 was good, but episodes 4 and 5, oh my gosh, my jam. I love that these episodes have given us so much more character development throughout. So much more character development. I was like, okay, cool. We're getting into the characters. We're getting into the second years. We're getting into more of the Generation Miracles. Kisei, you know what? We've been joking in the Discord about how there's a lot of shipping with this series. And I was like, oh, watching these episodes, I was like, oh no. I love shipping. I'm like a multi-shipper. I'm like all about it. When Kisei and Kagami and Kuroko were facing those other guys, I was like, am I like rooting for an OT3 right now? I think I am. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, we need to talk about these episodes. I did go back and look at the ending cards for 4, 5, and 6. The ending card for episode 4 with Kisei and Kuroko is my jam. That one's probably the best of the three by far. I do like the one for 5 with the second years that are like have all their gear and stuff, all their groceries. That one's cute. And then the one with Hyuga and the one that he is. Let me find him on here. He's the. Let me look on here. We got our boys here. It is. We have Matobe. And then it's Izuki is the one. It's Izuki and Hyuga. I like that one. Izuki's the one that writes down all the phrases. I like that one. He like thinks he has a big sense of humor, right? And does all the puns. That one's really cute. So those 3 cards were great. I was like, and I know what y'all were saying. In the Discord, they were also talking about how if you watch the EDs, there's like a 1 to 2 second thing that changes with some of the EDs. Like episode 4, the ED didn't change too much. But episode 5, it was a giant steak came down and they all were like, And then in episode 6, in the ED, we saw the one guy, old Papa, Dad. We saw him like with the Superman cape on. So that was really cute. But yeah, these episodes were great. I do love Kisei a lot in this series. I love Kisei a lot. And the dynamic that Kisei has with Kagami and Kuroko is, mwah, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. So yeah, episode 4, Kagami and Kuroko, they team up. And at first, they team up, and my notes are like all over the place at the end of the first quarter. I can't believe that episode 3 was like just the first quarter of the game, because basketball games have 4 quarters. And so it was like by the time we get to the second quarter, I'm like, we're only halfway through the game. And then we managed to finish it by the end of the episode. But getting a lot in there. Kisei. I like that Kisei is on edge after Kagami talks about his weakness. Because yeah, it may be that Kuroko is not only Kisei's weakness on the court, but off the court as well. It was funny in the Discord, everybody was like, oh, your ships may change as we watch the series. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure as we meet new characters, as their dynamics grow, I ship lots of characters with lots of characters. I multi-ship. I have OTPs, but they are kind of few and far between. I don't really solidify a pairing too much in manga and anime because it's too much fun to ship them with others. So I do like Kuroko and Kagami a lot. They're like a really good ship. And by the end of episode 5, I was like, I felt like Kisei gave him somewhat of his blessing for now, right? I felt like that was the case. But Kisei and Kuroko, I think the truck and some others in the Discord were really advocating for that ship. And at first I was like, I don't know. And now after episode 5, I was like, no, I see it. It's there. It's so there. Oh my god, Kisei has it bad for Kuroko, for Kurokochi. It's just, oh my god, he has it so bad. And Kuroko's just like, I guess I'm in a harem. I feel like this is Kuroko's harem, and who can we ship him with? We have Kagami and Kisei. Who can we add to the mix? Apparently not Midoriya or Midorima. Apparently not him, because he doesn't like Kuroko. They astrologically do not match up. I don't know what Kuroko's astrological sign is. We know that Midorima is a Cancer, and Kisei's a Gemini. Of course Kisei's a Gemini. I was like, I have friends that are Geminis, and now I was like, oh, it all makes sense. I do like horoscopes. They're a lot of fun, which when we get to Midorima, I will talk about him. He is so much fun. I can already tell. But yeah, Kagami and Kuroko, they just like rib each other, like having to work together. I like that Kagami and Kuroko, they don't instantly gel with each other, and at times they kind of are a little bit slanted against one another, but then when they mesh, and Kagami, his spirit and his underlying like faith in Kuroko, and Kuroko's like, okay, well, we'll try this out, it'll work, and he's like, you're right, we can make this work. And I'm like, that's so sweet, I love that. I'm like, all right, way to go, boys, that's the spirit, right? And so it's not perfect, but it is effective, them working together to like pass the ball around Kisei, because he can't copy Kuroko. And I love that line with Kuroko's like, I know that I'm powerless against you, Kisei, and Kagami cannot stand against you, but together we have a chance. And I was like, there's like so many near confessions in this series already with Kuroko and Kagami. I'm like, all right, I'm on board. And Kisei's thrown off by that. He's like, oh, and so yeah, and Kagami, the part where Kagami like puts his hand on Kuroko to like jettison himself up, I'm like, the fact that Kuroko has not suffered a cranial injury at this point, he's like had his head like smushed down by Kagame, and then he like got just bitch slapped by Kisei, which, oh my god, we'll talk about that. Holy shit. But yeah, and so Kisei accidentally like smacking him, which granted, that is a thing. I played basketball when I was in elementary. I was like near middle school. I was in 6th grade when I played. But I did get like smacked one time and like knocked. And I had glasses. I had the big bug eye glasses at the time, kind of like Hyuga. And I got smacked once and like smacked and broke the glasses and like cut my nose and everything. So yeah, it can happen and it hurts. I was like, ooh, I don't know, Riko, at first when she's like, I don't know if I should let you back in. But to be fair, it wasn't like he hit the ground or like I mean, he did fall down, but he did get smacked. But, oh man, I'm glad that, I was a little worried with her letting him play, but I'm glad everything checked out. I'm glad they took him to the hospital right afterwards and the whole team was there. And it was like, okay, good, he's fine. He's fine. Kuroko's okay. He could take a little bit of damage, but it's all right. But what I liked about episode 4 was that when Kuroko goes down, it's like, oh no, what are we going to do? This is our first practice game. We've lost our trump card. And then Riko's like, we aren't like a lame team. We are pretty tough. And Hyuga and the others can step up. Like, I like that we had that moment of the second years like coming out and being like, hey, we're not totally incompetent without Kuroko. We can do this. And I love Hyuga, not just because Hosoya voices him, but because he's a really good character. I like Hyuga. So I called him like a small guard, but I was thinking of small forward at the time. So he's a shooting guard. He's like a shooting guard, which is great. So he's kind of, him and Midorima have the same position. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then Izuki, he's the one that's kind of funny. He is the point guard. Matobe Renosuke is the center. And I like that we followed up in episode 6 about Matobe and his defense strategies. He's really good at defense because he's not crazy tall. Like, usually the centers are super tall, and that's kind of the whole point. And so when they said he was 186 centimeters, I was like, well, that's not crazy tall. Like 190, 192 you would think would be pretty tall, but he's kind of like, you know, a little bit more average. So I thought that was interesting. He was center, and then it kind of makes sense after that, right? When I played, I was center because when I was 11 years old, I was 5'8". So an 11-year-old girl that's 5'8" is, I grew all in 6th grade. I jumped up in height and then I stopped. By the time I was 12, I'm as tall as I am now, and I stopped growing after that. But I played center because I was really tall for a small kid. And so that was pretty much the only reason. I was not good like Matobe. Put it that way. But yeah, and so then we have Kagane Shinji. I love that he is the jack of all trades, master of none. And he's just sitting there like, thanks, I guess. I felt bad for him. Felt bad for Kagane. But yeah, he is a forward. So I'm guessing they have a forward. They have usually like a small forward and a power forward, right? So I'm guessing he's a forward. So I wonder if the small forward is, and small forward does not mean they're smaller. Usually that's something different. I wonder if Kagami is a small forward. Maybe. And so then, yeah, then the mystery man in green who like shows up on the scene with a pink can of tea saying he's a Cancer. Was his voice actor J-Ha's and Gojo's? I feel like his voice actor, it sounded like J-Ha, really, from Yona the Dawn. So I'm like, is he J-Ha and Gojo's voice actor? Sounded similar. I know that voice from somewhere, and it sounded like it could be him, but I'm not entirely sure. And I don't want to look it up because I don't want to be spoiled, so I'm assuming you all will tell me. But yeah, Riko, she decides to let Kuroko play, and I like when he comes on the court, Kagame's like, let's go. It's just like, he like doesn't argue. He's like, if you think you're good enough to go, then we'll go. He has faith in Kuroko and his decision, which I like quite a bit. But yeah, the game ties, and Kisei just gets fired up and goes Super Saiyan. That's like literally the thing. Like, he just flies past in this big wave of sparkles, and Kuroko has like the wind blown back. It was like a Dragon Ball Z move. I was like, are we doing this? Okay. The show, it's like, it was the one time the show got really kind of fantastical, but it was fine. I'm like, okay. But yeah, he doesn't want to lose, right? And we hear Midorima say, I want to see the copycat versus the invisible man. And I'm like, well, what are you called? Are you the fortune teller? Are you like because he's a shooting guard. He's the shooter. So I'm like, okay, are you the fortune teller since we got a copycat and an invisible man? How's that work? But then God, Kisei and Kuroko's strategy to win, the fake out and the alley-oop. That was a great move. I was wondering, I was like, how are they going to fake him out? They can do, because they said they can only do it once, and it makes sense that they could only do it one time, and then it wouldn't work anymore. So that part made a lot of sense. And then I really was thinking they weren't going to win. I thought that it was either going to tie and they were going to lose in overtime, or it was not going to work and Kisei was going to get the ball and they were going to beat him. But they won by 2 points, 198. And then that one point where Kagami jumps up, Kagami jumps up and Kisei's like, he's higher than me. He has the potential to go higher. Like Kisei sees in that moment that he's like, oh, he could potentially like outdo me and that he could be like the Generation of Miracles. And that'll carry on to episode 5. But episode 5, y'all, is like a fever dream. I am all about, as a viewer of sports anime, watching the games is great. Seeing the matchups is wonderful. But one of my favorite aspects about sports anime is the downtime that we get in between games. And Ace of the Diamond, who is the predecessor series to this one that I've been reading and watching, did an amazing job with the downtime in between games. Because it's a sports anime, yes, you're here to watch the sport, true. But for the sake of sports manga and sports anime, it's about the nakama. It's about the friendships. It's about the relationships these characters develop with one another and the interpersonal communication. Like, it's all about that. Like, the games are where all that stuff you build up in between the games comes into light and comes into action. But those in-between moments really set things up. And Ace of the Diamond was really good with doing that. Like, they did an expert job of setting up those moments and getting you to really root for those characters. And that kind of happens in episode 5. It's like a downtime episode, and it really gives us more one-on-one time with the characters, and it gets you on board with them even more, which I was like, yes, please. So I love the scene right when we start out where Kasamatsu and Hyuga shake hands and the coach is like has this negative aura like circling around him. And then you cut to Riko and she's like, what? Little me, our team, we just happened to put you in this practice game. There's like some kind of like yandere vibes coming off of Riko, but Hyuga likes it. So I feel like Hugo's like, yes, I understand. Yes, ma'am. I just feel like Riko would like stomp on somebody and they'd have to be all about it. But yeah, Riko gloats and then Midorima appears, our Cancer, calling Kisei out for being a Gemini and having bad luck. I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, it makes sense that he's Midorima. Midoriya is green. I think of Deku from My Hero Academia. He's a shooter, one of the best. So he's the guy that scored all the 3-point shots for the Generation of Miracles. And he makes the comment that Kisei, he's like, oh, you're just into dunking. That's so passé, so peasantry. He's like, the real technicality is with the shooting of the threes. He has a very Tsukishima vibe to him. And especially with the taped fingers and everything. He seems like he's super superstitious. He's all about like procedure and keeping things routine. He's into horoscopes. He has lucky items. The frog. I died. Kisei's face when he's looking at the frog just like, like he just doesn't get it. Like Kisei's face was my face. It was absolutely amazing. I love it. And so then Kisei's like, well, why are you here to see me? I didn't win. Shouldn't you be here to see the victors? Shouldn't you be here to see Kuroko? And Midorima says, oh, well, no. A B blood type like me could not be with an A type like Kuroko. And I'm like, And then later Kuroko's like, yeah, I don't really like him. It's like, now I'm curious to know his astrological sign to see if it's not compatible with Cancer. That would be interesting. It's probably not Taurus. I'm gonna guess it's not Taurus because Tauruses and Cancers are pretty compatible. So I'm gonna guess it's not that. Midorima's character is so like eccentric and strange and like kind of like just off and quirky. I'm kind of all about it already. I'm ready. I have a feeling he's going to be pretentious as hell when we get to the game against them. Because we're going to get to the game against them. And he's going to be pretentious. But I'm kind of here for it. He seems a little bit diva. Kisei's a diva, kind of. But Midorima seems like a diva in a different way. I'm imagining the Generation of Miracles, they're all divas. Just in their own special way. So That's how I imagine it anyway. But yeah, but I do like that Midorima says that he respects Kuroko's style. He respects his style and his ability. He just doesn't understand why he didn't go to a prestigious school. And we find out later that Kuroko was like, I was kind of done with all of that. So, because for Kuroko, his decision is based on the fact that he's like, no, he's like, the prestigious schools, all they expect you to do is win. And he's like, that takes the fun out of the game. And he's like, I like Kagami because he plays seriously and because he loves the game. And I'm like confessions all over the place, right? Just everywhere. I do love that Riko looking out for her team because they're broke. They're broke high school kids, surprising no one. And they have no money to go buy food. And so she sees the truck that offers, and we have those in the US where it's like you eat like a 40-pound steak or something, not even a 40-pound, you eat like a 4-pound steak and you get it on the house. Otherwise it's like $40. Like, we have those in the US. So when she said they were on the steak joint, it was all you could eat steak and you had to eat it in so much to get it for free. I was like, which is clever. You would think as a basketball team, they'd be able to handle it. But she makes note. She's like, we can't handle this. This is not good. And I love that Kuroko just like, I give up. He eats like one bite and he's like done. But Kagame comes in clutch, eats it all for him because, I mean, if you can eat 12 cheeseburgers, you can probably handle like a steak or two. And then Kisei just kidnaps Kuroko. Just comes in, he's like, hey, come talk with me for a while. I am a little bit like Kuroko. You could have told them where you were going. You could have said something, Kuroko, but he just leaves like the silent puppy that he is. And then, of course, everybody gets nervous and starts looking for him, being like, we can't leave this kid alone. And so Kuroko establishes that he doesn't like Midorima, he doesn't get along with them. And he admits that he started to hate basketball. The reason why he left after the championship game with Tato is that he was starting to hate it. He's like, I love the squeaky shoes, the feel of the court, the feel of the ball, the sound of the stage and everything, the arena. He's like, and the court. He's like, I just didn't love it anymore. And so I didn't want to be a part of something I didn't love. And it's like, yeah, no, that makes sense. And he's like, it can't just all be about winning. And Kisei's like, what are you talking about? You know, one of those situations. But I like that he admits and explains to him why he did that. And so Kisei tries to put a dig on him. I'm so glad that this series did not go like the shady drama route of Kisei. Because the moment Kisei was like, don't you understand? Kagame's going to leave you eventually. I was like, what is this drama and why are we doing it? And he was like, and Kisei's like, well, Kagame has the potential to be like the Generation of Miracles. And he's going to outgrow the team that he's on and leave them. And I was like, well, no, I don't know if he will or not because Kagami is all about like a challenge and he's all about a team. So I'm like, I think Kagami's already much different than the Generation of Miracles. I don't think he would leave. And so, Kisei's just trying to scare Kuroko with that. He's like, you could come with me and play with me. He's like, because eventually Kagami is going to leave you. The reason that you're playing on Siren is going to leave you. So you might as well just come with me. And I'm so glad. Because whenever Kagami like started to walk up and he like heard them talking and was like, what are they doing? I was so afraid that Kagami he was either A, not going to hear them talking about it, or B, he wasn't going to say anything and drag that bullshit drama out. He does neither. He just like smacks Kuroko and he's like, where you are? Like smacks him like, quit leaving us. And it's so funny. And then he's like, you talking about me? Like Kagami is very direct. He's like, just, you say something, say it to my face. And I love him for that. Like, I love that trait about him. Where he's like, no. He's like, excuse me. And then they're about to have, like, an explanation of what he was talking about. And then we have, like, the street ball kids that were playing getting, like, beat up by this gang. And I'm like, what are we doing? And I like that Kagami's like, the hell? And then it's interesting because I thought that Kagami and Kisei were going to immediately, like, go to solve the problem. But they don't. Instead, Kuroko takes action and Kuroko steps up and is like, hey, what we doing? And it's like, oh! And so, y'all, my shipper heart, I just, the image of Kuroko with Kisei and Kagami behind him being like, you messing with our man. I was like, I just went from like shipping these two ships to like an OT3. And so I love it because it's so funny because it's a shipper's dream, right? You're spoiled for choice. You have Kuroko and Kagami who are like star-crossed lovers, polar opposites, but they have like similar passions, and so that brings them together. And then you have Kisei and Kuroko, and Kisei like indulges Kuroko. He's like Kuroko-chi, and like he's amazing, and like just dotes on him hand and foot. So and Kagami's just like, get out of the way, kid, why'd you leave us? So you have two different types of ships with Kuroko, one with Kisei and one with Kagami, and they're both kind of amazing, and I love them both. But I love them just like, and then afterwards, Kagami they sound like a couple. He's like, do you know what kind of trouble you could have been in? Like, you could have gotten hurt. Like, just, and I love Kuroko's like, he's like, I would have been fine. I mean, they would have beaten me up, but look at these guns. Look at these guns. So good. So good. But yeah, Kisei, he's like amazed by Kuroko. And then I love that as he's watching Kagami yell at him, he just kind of smiles like, okay, all right, I got competition. It's fine. You guys gotta face Midorima eventually. It's okay. See if y'all can handle it, but I'll leave Kuroko in your hands for now. I just love it. And he acknowledges Kagami and calls him Kagamichi. And he's like, what? It's great. I love it. And so at the very end of the episode, I'm glad, again, no unnecessarily bullshit drama. Instead, Kagami's like, yeah, I heard what Kisei was saying about me, like why he was talking behind my back. I don't know, but I heard it. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm not going to leave you. You're not going to be alone. And then he's like, I'll always be there because you'll always need to be next to the light. And I'm like, he's like, that's your basketball. And I was like, oh my God. My shipper heart. I was so happy with that. I was like, that's great. Good on you, sirs. And so then we have episode 6, the third one of this, where we're trying to lining out everything. We do our little recap of everything, and of course our boys, after suffering from a long, hard practice game against a generation of miracles, they're just completely zapped, like completely zoned out, struggling to stay awake. Kuroko gets away with it because he's Kuroko and because he can avoid it. But it's really cute. I love that we see them all nodding off, and Riko's like, stamina up. I also love that Riko and Hyuga are in the same class together, and they sit next to each other. It's very cute. And so then, yeah, she decides to send, Riko's all about this hazing of the first year. She's all about the first year hazing. So she sends them after this quest to find this amazing bread. Now, granted, I'm not a fan of caviar. I thought, looking at this bread at the beginning, now looking at the picture, you can see that there's caviar on it. I thought at first it was like blackberries. And I was like, oh, okay, pork and blackberries. I like jam on my sausage, so okay, sure, I guess that works. But no, it's caviar. I would have them hold the caviar. But the cheese and the pork cutlets sound amazing. I'm all about a pork cutlet, but not about the caviar. I'm like, that's just fish eggs, gross. But I love that she's like, oh, just go, it'll be fine. She's like, you guys just go get this fantastic bread for everyone, and you can continue to build the momentum. It'll be like a good luck thing. She's like, we're not the only ones with our eyes on it, but it's fine. I'm sure you can handle it. It just gets a little bit busier. It's no problem. And I love that Hyuga kind of looks away like they have no clue what they're in for. And Kagami's like, should be easy. Just go buy some bread. And then I love the idea that they just, they pan up, right? They pan up, and at first you just think it's like a bunch of kids, like a bunch of high schoolers. But then we see the rugby team? The rugby team forwards. There's like a guy with his sleeves ripped off of his school shirt. One man is shirtless and has his back muscles popping out everywhere. It's like Mob Psycho levels of not even feasible for a high school. But it's so funny. So you have that, and then the American football team's linemen. Why is there an American football team in Japan? Why? And then these kids are getting shoved out of the way. And then sumo and weightlifting, they're all there. He's like, how are we supposed to get past them? And Kagami with where he gets knocked down. and says Japanese lunchtime rush. The cute thing about that line when he's saying it in English there, like making fun of it, is that his eyes get so big and expressive and like soft. It's kind of cute. I like Kagame with that, and they're like, what are you doing? And of course, he even tries surfing, like the logistics. I'm like, are you serious? Trying to crowd surf. And then I love that Kuroko just sneaks in. I was like, of course. Kuroko's just like, I just kind of like flowed with the crowd and made my way in and got with the bread. It's great. And so they end up getting it. And the second years are like, look at you. And what's fun about this is that like Kuroko... What's fun about it is that Kuroko and the other first years, with the exception of Kagami, they all like the bread and they're like, oh my god, it's delicious. What's cruel is that we don't get to see Kuroko's happy face. He eats the bread and then we see like him light up and they're just like, what? They're like, we've never seen Kuroko happy before. They don't show it to us. How dare you, show? How dare you? I want to see Kuroko happy. We better get to see it by the end of this series. I want to see Kuroko smiling and happy. How dare they tease us with that? Not cool, right? But what I love is that they all take turns eating it. And then we cut to Kagami. And he got like a super long BLT that was like 100 centimeters long. Because he eats a lot. He's a growing guy. And it was 1,000 yen. Like the one was 2,800 yen. And this was like, you know, a third of the price. Oh my God. It's great. I feel like that was just like, if this was a manga, that was like a little filler side story that they had to squeeze in the episode before they could start this one. But it makes sense. It works with the episode because then they like set it up to where we've just started the match against old Papa against Dad. And so then, man, I was getting slam dunk flashbacks with that grid. That grid breaking out the inner highs. I was like, oh no, I'm getting like Seinen and Ryonen flashbacks. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, the winner of the bracket goes on to the Championship League. We got to do all this. We got A block winner, B block winner, C block winner, D block winner. Oh my God, it's just going to be nuts. And the top 3 teams go to the Championship League. I do remember that from Slam Dunk. It's the top 3 teams. That 4th team, knock them out. Oh my God. I can't participate in the inner high. So yeah, but we are far away from facing the strong school. We are a ways away from facing Shutoku, where Midorima is on. We're far away from facing them. I'm gonna guess if we make it to them, that's gonna be like an end of season thing if we face them. Now, will we win against them? I don't know. The thing about it is we have a team of second year and first years. This series could very well make it to where we don't win. And then our Hyuga and then become third years. And we have our second years, like Kagami becomes a second year. And then we have our new first years. So it very well could be that they don't end up winning against Midorima's team. Very well could be, but we'll wait and see, right? That's going to be the fun part. But yeah, and Kuroko ominously says that, you know, they're probably better than they were before. And that's going to make it really hard for us to win because Kisei was the weakest of the 5. I still think the one with the red hair is the strongest. Of course, he would have red hair like Kagami, so we'll save him to be our shipping war person at the very end of this, right? I feel like he's the strongest, and the purple-haired one is the second strongest, and then the blue-haired one and Midorima probably are like maybe equals, perhaps. We'll see. But yeah, I also love that when Riko shows them her flip phone, she gives it to Hyuga to look it up. And then they look on there and they're like, oh, they see this cute cat photo on her screen. And Hyuga is like, it's kawaii. Like him and Matobi are the only ones that blush. I'm like, oh my gosh. Of course you would. And she's like, go to the next photo. So I like that there's a little heart that comes off Kuroko and she's just like, stop, go to the next photo. Never mind the cat. And so then we have the Papa, who is the exchange student. Which is interesting. Slam Dunk didn't really talk about exchange students very much. That wasn't really a thing in that manga, which makes me wonder if it just wasn't a thing at the time when it came out. It wasn't as popular to have exchange students come in and play. I know in series like Run with the Wind, that is a plot point in the series to talk about them bringing in runners that are from other countries. So that part gets talked about in here. I'm interested in seeing how this develops, if we get any more like foreign exchange students in the story, or if it's just Papa, if it's just Dad. But yeah, that's the whole thing Kagami brings up. He's like, yeah, he's tall, but that doesn't mean he's infallible. That just means he's tall, he'll be tough, but we can still play against him, right? And honestly, I was all ready because, like, in series like Haikyuu has, like, a super, like, 2-meter tall character, and he's, like, a big old softy. You're, like, it's like Hyakuzawa. Like, you feel for him because you're like, oh, he's just a big softy, and, you know, he's learning to play volleyball and everything's great. Papa's kind of a little bit of a jerk. A little bit, where he's a little pretentious, where he's just like, we can do anything because I'm super tall, right? I do like that we get some training montage before we go face them, though. We get the training montage. We see them sleeping, but we also see Matobe and Kagami practicing, which is like foreshadowing of what's to come. So that part's good. And them doing the shuffling, the crab walks. It's great. And then, of course, Kagami doesn't sleep. He's like just drained. He couldn't sleep the night before. He was too nervous. But yeah, oh my God. Like, him looking down and seeing Kuroko and then picking him up. He just picked him up. I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? What are we doing? And he tells him, he's like, no, little boy, children shouldn't be on the court. And everybody just laughs. Oh my God. Kuroko's like, I'm getting annoyed. I'm not a child. Oh my God. I can't. That part. He just lifted him up like it was nothing. But yeah, so the thing about it is, like, this conversation between the captain, I forget his name, but the captain and Hyuga is interesting because he's like, I bet you're one of those teams that works really hard. And you're like, oh, it's not fair if you have a foreign exchange student. He's like, well, it's not illegal. Any team can do it. You know, we're just sorry you didn't have the opportunity. But he also is kind of a jerk about it because he's like, you know, who cares if we don't have to try? Like, he just has to score for us and make it easy. And it's like, like, our boys have worked real hard. So I'm hoping that as soon as the tide starts to turn and they start to, like, get the ball away from him and score, then it'll change that captain's mind. Because I was just kind of like, that sucks, you know, that you're just like, oh, too bad for you all. We've got this really cool player. I guess you'll have to struggle. And that kind of goes with Matobe. And Matobe doesn't even just say anything. I love the moment where Kagami's just like, ugh. And he turns around, Matobe's just standing out there at him like, you gonna do the thing? Like, Matobe is quiet and he can just like look at you and pierce into your skin. I love the stuff we've got in the second years. It's so much fun getting to see the second years and learning about their personalities and everything. I love that Kagami's like, I'll be okay. Matobe didn't say a word. It's great. But yeah, we're only in the first quarter at this point. We're like near the end of the first quarter. And I love that Kagami's like, I got 2 things to tell you. He's like, let me tell you 2 things. He's like, I'm going to block one of your shots by the end of this game. And Papa's like, no, that ain't going to happen. What are you talking about? And he's like, and the other thing is, you better watch out for that kid. And Kuroko's like, please stop calling me a child. Both of you. Oh my gosh. So yeah, this last game's off to a really good start. We're only in the first quarter, so I'm assuming we'll see plenty more in episode 7. But yeah, ships galore. I love the dynamic between our players. I love Siren's team. The second years, we're getting more with them. I love Hyuga. Kisei's won me over. Midorima, I'm already excited for him. I can't wait to see him on the court, him being just ridiculous. And then, yeah, we can only hope that it's a good horoscope day for him, right? So, yeah, next week we'll be looking at episodes 7, 8, and 9. I'm really excited. These episodes were so funny. They were so good. And I'm so excited to hear your comments down below. So, in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back next week with more Kuroko's basketball.